Record, and here we are. So thank you all for joining us today. I want to make sure that we share a little bit about Plexus as well. I think many of you are familiar. Sorry, I'm just finding my way around. Of course, when there starts to be a little technical issue on my end is when I start to not be able to find my mouse. That's always fun. Okay, here we go. All right, so just a quick reminder of Plexus. We're your LGBT and allied Chamber of Commerce, and we also have an education foundation, which is where we take the time to research and develop these kind of educational programs. Really delighted today that Brian Schultz is on with us, and he is our president of the Plexus Education Foundation. So huge thank you to our members, our board and committee and volunteer people that are on with us. So if you're not a member of Plexus, that's no problem. We're always providing free online learning communities like this. And you can always attend our upcoming events, which we'll close up with. You can always join us even as a non-member because we love to have more at the party. All right, so we're here to talk about networking. And I really am going to take a perspective on this from folks that don't like to network or unsure about networking, aren't sure that they're making the most of how to approach a room full of potential strangers. So first, where are you going to be looking to network? Every opportunity is a meaningful connection point, a way to create change, to spark a new relationship, and possibly reach some goals that you have, whether you're a development professional, a real estate agent, or emerging professional and college student. Every single room that you're in is an opportunity to network. Here, and we'll share our slides, are some ways in the Cleveland area specifically that you can really get networked, or we know that they have ongoing engagement communities. Cleveland Neighborhood Progress is a great organization. They help to organize the different community development corporations. So any neighborhood that you live in the Cleveland and outlying suburbs, they have these community development corporations. They're often providing opportunities for neighbors and businesses to link up with one another. If you're in the creative field or you're an artist, I really want to bring to the forefront for you Assembly for the Arts. They, along with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, host a number of creative and artistic networking opportunities. They also oftentimes have grants available. Whatever your alumni organization is, make sure that you're connecting with your alumni group. I'm not saying that just as a former director of development and alumni relations, but really you can sleep on your undergraduate and graduate programs. They often are offering opportunities for you to learn who's in your area and connect on a one-on-one, or obviously the different events that they host. Cleveland, we are home to the Cleveland, the Greater Cleveland Partnership. That is the largest chamber of commerce in the United States. That's what we have here at Cleveland. So you have this vast network through GCP of different ways that you can connect. Again, they're streamlined. Sometimes they do tech, young professionals, entrepreneurs, and small business. Then when we want to think about this around young professional groups, we of course have a really active young professional committee. We have some events that are coming up this week on Thursday that we'll talk more about, but there's also really great organizations in Engage Cleveland. They often have ongoing professional development opportunities as well. The 2030 Club, Global Shapers, and the Young Latino Network. If you're needing contacts for these, I think that we can probably include them in the notes, but they're all partners with Plexus. So we're all trying to work in this space of supporting young professionals or emerging professionals with making meaningful connections. And then of course, there's a number of affinity groups like Lesbians Who Code, there's real estate boards and organizations, and the International Live Events Association. And then lastly, Eventbrite is not a place that you're gonna go and network, but pay attention to your Eventbrite settings. Log into your Eventbrite, not just when you're trying to get tickets, but they have marketing that they push out that you can see a calendar of events that are in your area. So when I was getting ready for this presentation, I typed in networking events in the Cleveland area, and it gave me organizations and groups that I wasn't even aware of. So it was a really great way to think about how to cast your net of the different rooms and spaces that you might want to show up in. A reminder. Every opportunity that you have to connect with folks, including on your social, you're networking. You're building out your network, you're building out your relationships. So when you're going to an event and you press going or interested on your Facebook events, take a look to see who else is going, who else is interested. First of all, for somebody like me, who you probably can't tell, has high levels of social anxiety, my wife is on the call. She can totally attest to this. Like, it's a whole process to get me out the door to events. You'd never know it. Going and looking at the guest list that's available ahead of time helps kind of calm me down, helps me see who I might already know there. It helps me walk into the room mentally before I have to walk into the room physically, which really helps with my anxiety. Always have business cards. Now, if you're using an electronic business card, test it out and make sure it works. If you're using a QR code, again, test it out, make sure it works. We use paper business cards here still, and I love them. I can totally encourage you to think about using Canva. It's a free online design program, and you can print directly from there in small batches in a very affordable way. So I'm a super fan of Canva. Sometimes we're not sure what business card to carry. Maybe we're in a job transition. Maybe we're focusing on our family first right now, but we still want to be networked. We want to be relevant. We want to be in professional spaces. Give yourself whatever title you want. Amazing superstar Amanda Cole, right? Leader of my own life. I mean, you can be as playful as you want, but that's fine just to have a business card with your name and your contact information so you can hand that over to somebody. Even when you're in these, maybe in between, you don't have that set 9 to 5 kind of job yet. Remember that Instagram reflects your brand. So if Instagram is seriously just a fun place for you to post whatever you want, then pay attention to how public that is. But for me, my Instagram is a place where I want you to follow me. I'm going to share about my family and different things that I'm reading about, but I know it also is reflecting my brand and it's reflecting Plexus as an organization. So decide how you want your different social platforms to reflect different parts of you and how open and forward you want to be with them. I do know that for many of us, it's really fun. I meet somebody at an event and I just want to know them a little more socially. I want to see what they have to say or where they're traveling. I follow them on Instagram, especially if they have a public profile. Your LinkedIn needs to be up to date and needs to be populated. This is no longer a dusty shelf for a resume. I am notoriously bad at not working my LinkedIn. So I'm actually going to let Jenny come on in here for a bit and tell us more about what she is seeing with the power of LinkedIn and how to really leverage it to have greater conversations.
Hi, yeah. So LinkedIn is, I think, has definitely grown. As Amanda is saying, it's something that everyone should have. And in fact, a lot of people who help with resumes will say, put your LinkedIn on your resume because it can really expand the amount of information that an organization or an individual can gather about you for your professional. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use LinkedIn in the day-to-day LinkedIn space, but it really gives an opportunity for in-time contacts and making connection, continuous engagement and tracking that engagement, as well as continuing to grow your network and staying connected to them. So you don't just meet someone at an event, you get their business card and you never see them again. You get to see what they're doing, what information they have and are sharing, and their connections, what they're doing out there. And so it really allows you a lot more access to information and to the people that you're meeting.
Jenny is definitely my coach that's like, this should be on LinkedIn, Amanda. And I'm like, you are right. So little ways that I'm trying to really engage with this growing social media platform that's been around for a long time is I'm trying to do that as the first thing I do in the morning. When I'm kind of getting my coffee and I'm vegging out, I'm not helping pack the children's lunches, I get on LinkedIn just to see what other people are doing and I'm engaging there. Now, every time you're in a space, I want you to think about treating everyone like a CEO. We have a lot of ways of knowing this. I know we used to give our son the reminder, your ancestors are with you. Like, behave when you go out in the world, you know? So treat everyone like they're a CEO. You never know who is in the space with you. So treat everyone really well in that way, because you never know what that contact could bring forward for you or what kind of relationship and how pivotal that can be in your professional and personal life. We want to turn these business cards into connections. So one trick I use on my phone is I have an app that's free. It's called Adobe Scan. And it's useful for scanning documents and sending them off. It's useful for scanning receipts, like if you're having to reconcile things. You also can scan the business card in there. And what it will do is it will import it into your contacts. Sometimes you have to match them up, especially with the more creative, beautiful business cards. But it's a great way to scan it, get it into your phone, and put it into your contacts. You need to add these contacts to your phone and to your email with context. Put in the notes where you met them, if there's a follow-up that you want to do, right? Make sure you're remembering the context of this person. For those of us who are managing databases, don't sleep on getting this into your Razor's Edge, into your Giving Tree, whatever your contact is, put it in there. A lot of times Jenny and I are meeting with people and we add you on into our database as a perspective, and we put notes in there with context as much as we can. It's a little bit of that everyday cleanup and good habits that we need to make sure we build in. When you connect with somebody, send them something on LinkedIn. And I will admit, I'm really bad at making sure I'm checking my LinkedIn messages. So I'm trying to do a better job to make sure I don't ghost people there. So within those couple of days of getting somebody's contact information or meeting somebody, make it a habit to send that message. And then also when I'm at events, I'm trying to do a better job of immediately looking at my LinkedIn, because I'm noticing that people are connecting with me immediately there, and I need to be more responsive. And then again, you want to follow over on Instagram if relevant, and send people a DM. It was really great to meet you at this event. Remind them of how they knew you as well. Whenever you're sending a follow-up, remind them how they know you. Okay, so you know what is really cool? You can do this here on LinkedIn to create a QR code that you can download into your phone, or you can bring up in that moment and encourage someone to scan and connect with you immediately. So I'd really love for you to get your phone out and go on and connect with me on LinkedIn. And then if I don't respond to you immediately, you can email Brian Schultz. He's going to drop his email into the chat, and then you can let him know that I ignored you on LinkedIn. But honestly, this is a little bit of a practice to hold me accountable. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, and then you're going to help me improve my networking practice that's outside of this one-on-one here. And this is also, Jenny, where I was going to kick it on over to you to talk more about LinkedIn. I forgot in our planning. Did you want to take some more time to talk about the benefits of LinkedIn? Hold on, I got to get off. Ooh. Go ahead.
I definitely think I covered most of it. I just think that it's what I wanted to say really about the real time is that the business cards I think are great, but sometimes we get these little scraps of paper with our names and emails, and then maybe follow up and then toss them. Most of us don't have Rolodexes these days, if you even know what a Rolodex is. But the nice thing is you can use this link, you can give someone your QR, they can pop up your LinkedIn right away on your phone and send you a message. Oh, great to meet you at such and such event. And it's done. And you don't have that follow-up later on, sifting through cards. How do I, with little notes you scratched. And then you can use those connects to keep re-engaging with them. They're already now in your LinkedIn messages. So I find that that's a really good tool and something I use a lot more now. So even if I do get someone's business card, I say, I'm going to follow you on LinkedIn today and let them know and make that connection there as well. And then you're instantly connected and in their world, which I think is just such a bonus. And it's how a lot of businesses are working these days for recruitment, for knowledge base, for learning, development, and for people's own professional work.
Absolutely. I think that is really right on. And the nice thing too is that it also kind of streamlines your communication. It's not going to get lost in your email. Like you said, you can go back to look at those messages and it's like its own inbox that's working there. I really love that. It's a good reminder. Okay, let me find my mouse here. Okay, another of in real life that we want you to do here a bit. If you haven't already, please share your contact. Drop your virtual business card over here into the contact. Who you are, what you're doing, what kind of maybe connections that you're looking for. We just had a Plexus lunch earlier, and what was really great was everybody introduced themselves and they said, good connections you can make for me are. I want to be introduced to college students. I'm looking for people that are starting to retire. I really work with contractors. These are good connections for you to give to me. So please populate over here in the chat. The other thing that I want you to do is grab our emails, right? So Jenny's is members@thinkplexus.org and mine is acole@thinkplexus.org. We want you to send us a thank you. Thank you for hosting the Plexus Connects today, because this is another best practice. Whoever's house party you went to, networking event, GCP, even if it's the info at, I had such a great time at this event. Thanks for having it. And then you could also include in there, here's something you might be interested in, or I'd like to connect with you on this. So we're going to ask you to send us a little thank you email, boost our egos up a bit, but also get into that practice when you're on a webinar, wherever you are. If you have some point of contact, send them a thank you note. Plus, you never know how that could be making somebody's day a lot better. And like, let's just spread more joy, right? And then of course, both of our LinkedIns are on here. And so find us on LinkedIn, follow us, connect with us, and then send us a message. I'm sure Jenny will respond immediately and I will do my best. And then also Jenny's going to drop our socials over here in the chat if she hasn't already. Please do follow Plexus. If you have socials that you want us to follow, whether they're your own personal or the organization that you work for, drop those into the chat too. There's nothing wrong with sharing good information. Okay. All right. So we've thought about how to make these connections in a virtual everyday way. We shared some places to follow, pay attention to, so you can get into some spaces, some rooms to network. Let's think a little bit about what to do before you go, right? So you want to be familiar with the event. Who's hosting it? Who's likely to be in the room? What connections are you going to make there? Also setting your own goals. When I go into different networking spaces, I have different reasons for being there. Sometimes I'm even bringing a whole different kind of persona in a way. There's different people I want to connect with, different ways I might be representing myself. So be familiar with the event ahead of time. Of course, if you can see a public guest list, I really encourage you to check for that, right? It also is going to help you find those familiar faces. Understand the location. Really think about how far are you going to have to walk? Do you have the right kind of shoes? What's the weather going to be like? Where's the parking? Is it in a big convention center or a hotel where I might get a little bit discombobulated when I'm there? It's just important to help you have an easy arrival into a space. But then also, if you're like me and for about 15 minutes, you're finding every excuse and the reason why not to go to the event, if you've mapped out your location, you're going to mentally get yourself there before you're there. Bring a good bag, right? And now I know not everybody carries a bag, but if you're having to bring a bag, think about what it is. How easy is it to set down? How comfortable do you feel putting it on the floor or on a table? Is it a conversation starter? I walk around with a Rainbow Kate Spade bag. One, it's totally utilitarian. Two, my wife bought it for me. We're just gonna give her a lot of big ups on this webinar today, but also it's a total conversation starter. So if you have something that's a conversation starter and is a good, easy bag to carry when you might be juggling a plate of food with some toothpicks and a cup, then think about that bag. If it's your wallet or your pockets, think about what your pockets are. If you're not carrying a bag, how easy is it for you to place those keys, your ticket, your ID, and how, because you don't want to be jumbled when you're making a quick look to make a connection with somebody. Charge your phone, period. We gotta get these phones charged before we go to events. And organize your phone. So I like to keep my home screen organized where I have a folder where all my social media is. I might even pre-select some photos when people are like, oh, do you have a dog? And I'll be like, oh, here are my dogs. I don't want to scroll all the way through. I want that dog photo, my family photo, maybe the picture of the soiree. It's our big fundraiser event that we hope you come to in July, right? Organize your phone so you can make these really meaningful connections. Also make sure that QR code is available, your LinkedIn is available, right? So you can just pop those on up and you're not scrolling all around in there. Eat before you go, because you don't want to be at the event and then your blood sugar drops or you're trying to eat your one meal of the day. So whatever it is, please do that. And especially if you're somebody that has certain dietary restrictions. And networking events, as somebody who organizes them, it's often hard for us to make sure that we're having enough vegan, gluten-free, and like accessible foods for everybody. So make sure you eat. And then always start with water. When you first walk into an event, if there's a bar, getting into the bar line is a great way to have some small talk with people. You're all just kind of waiting in line. But you don't want to start, if you do choose to drink alcohol, or if you are somebody that drinks alcohol, you don't want to start with that. Get some water, even if it's a fizzy water with a lime in it. Also, you don't have to drink at networking nights, but I know that for me, sometimes it takes that edge off, or I can just feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So you don't have to. And I think our society has a lot more understanding that people choose not to drink for a lot of different reasons. The stigma is off of it, but always start with the water. Also, bring mints. Don't bring gum because you have to spit it out. Bring mints. I also like to keep these Listerine strips in my bag. They wake you up a little bit and they're like a super refresher for your mouth, because all of our breath might get stale, but also you're going to be doing a lot of talking. So your face is going to get sore, your mouth is going to get dry. So make sure you stay hydrated and ready to go.
Amanda, quick question.
Yep.
A lot of times we go to these networking events and there's foods and drinks there. How do you sort of manage plates, cups, shaking hands, meeting people, all, sometimes that can be awkward. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if it's awkward for you, it's probably awkward for everybody. So we're all just having these weird, awkward moments of being human, right? And doing this thing. So like I said, I start with a drink. Water. I walk the space a little bit and kind of peruse where I want to go. If I need to eat when I first get there, then I make sure that I see a place that I can go to and set my food down to eat there. And then I'm ready to engage with that group that is there. And then I wrap that up. I do not plan to be like drinking or eating at the whole thing. If I have my one glass, I usually, again, have that bag that always lets me keep my hand free. And I carry that glass and my bag on my left hand so that my right hand is available in case we're shaking. Also, I didn't include this there, but anytime you have name badges, you should put them on your right hand side so that when you are extending out your right hand, somebody's looking up your arm right to where your name and your pronoun sticker ideally is. Good? Okay. And let's see, there we go. Okay, so you better work that room, right? It's why you're there. So go ahead and set some goals. And here's the thing that I like to make sure people know about Plexus events specifically. They are meant to be social. We had 2 people today at a business-to-business luncheon. Most people were there to get referrals and make connections because that's a part of their business model. 2 people stood up and said, don't at me. Don't give me referrals. Don't give me anything. I just wanted to be here in the space with you. So you can remember that these can be good social events, but set your goals. What are you going to this particular event for? How many people do you want to meet? Right? Like you can even just set like, I'm going to talk to 10 new people, 5 new people. I'm going to try and reconnect with somebody that I saw at the last event. It can be that kind of goal. But a lot of times if we're trying to get referrals and connections, be clear about what it is that you're hoping to get out of this. Make sure you have that pitch ready to go. Sometimes your pitch is also just like when somebody asks you who you are, kind of practice your different answers so you have something that's ready to go, so you're not super flustered. I often think about a couple different small talk kind of things I'm going to jump off on, like I'm Amanda, and I'm really interested in being here because I love Plexus events, obviously, or I wanted to learn more about this project that was happening in Cleveland. What brings you here? What are you interested in learning? Or why am I getting to meet you here today? So I'm going to have that introduction, and then I'm going to also be able to open that up and have that conversation with somebody. We at Plexus really like to encourage people to introduce with their pronouns. This is something that you can test out however comfortable that you are. If you're not in the habit of introducing yourself with your pronouns yet, make sure that you practice it so it's nice and fluid. And then also, if you're not in a space that's majority LGBTQ or queer, you're probably going to want to make sure you have a quick way of explaining it to people. I usually tell people it just helps us have good, effective communication. I want you to get my name right, and I want you to get my pronouns right, and I want to do the same for you. Now, when you're at an event, you walk in and it looks like it's just like massive, a bunch of people, and like all of a sudden you're not sure why you're there and you get hives on your chest, or that's just me. But that's what can happen, right? So an event can feel like an ocean, but it's really not. People clump up. So look for islands, look for your groups. Okay. And you're going to want to look for an odd group usually, because it means that there's usually an odd person out. And you can walk into that group and you can say, hey, can I join you? You can find that person that's not totally engaged in the group, and you can even bring in and maybe start a new island with them. Someone just told me recently, look for open 2s and 3s. So sometimes, depending on how people's body language is, you can see that there's a group of 2 people and you can come in and join easily because they're not faced just like this. Or again, that 3, a group of 3 where their bodies are open to the room and they're not in a triangle. So take away that ocean and look for those islands. And again, when I walk in, I go to the bar to be able to get a sense of that. Sometimes I even go to the bathroom just to get myself a little established, and then I can walk back into the room a second time to get a second look. You're going to want to get social, right? So you check in at the event. First of all, if you're going to nonprofit events, check in. It helps us, help us help our algorithms, right? Take photos with people, right? I'm really bad at this. We just had this lunch again. I just talked about, you'll never know it because I forgot to take photos at it. So do better than me and take photos with people, take selfies with people, right? Follow people while they're there on social. And then just also make sure that you're tagging the organizer. Make it a game. So we sometimes use these bingo cards to get people mixed up, like go find someone that has a crush on Kevin Love, and find somebody who has a standing desk. Well, you can make it a game in your own way. I want to find 5 people who are going to the next Cavs game or who have been to a Cavs game. And I'm going to use that as a little bit of my small talk, or it's going to keep me kind of listening for certain things. But also, if going to these things, going to networking events sounds like an absolutely the worst thing ever, make it a game and make yourself into a persona. Think about it that this is Amanda, the extrovert, don't go as far as like having an accent that's like fake, or like, going full on into like cosplay or character acting. But if you need to, make it a game in your own mind, right? And also, legitimately, power posing works. Looking in the mirror and just reminding ourselves, I can do this. I want to be here. People want me to be here, and like taking up a lot of space. It's one of those ways that you can really step into it as a game. Now, say I'm in a group, it kind of fizzles apart, and then I'm just standing there by myself. Like it feels like middle school all over again, and you don't know what lunch table to sit at. Instead of walking in a straight line, zigzag through the event and keep looking for those islands and those open 2s and 3s. So if it's an event, I move in a zigzag kind of way because it's more likely I'm going to run into somebody, stop by another table. And also for me, it just feels like I'm blending through the crowd, and I don't feel like I'm just like doing this alone walk of shame trying to sit at the popular table, right? So these are some ways that you can really work this room.
Amanda wanted to add, as someone who is an introvert and very horrible at networking, and oftentimes take it personally when I feel like I'm the only one not talking with someone, I want to really highlight that there's some of us out there that networking really takes a little bit of risk taking, and it's okay to talk yourself up and into that. It's okay to sit in the corner and just be drinking and contemplative. And it's also okay just to join a group and listen and start interjecting. That is a lot of times what happens at networking and why people are talking to other people, not because they all know each other, not because they know what to say. And as Amanda just shared, I feel that same way. So it's great to know that if we were both at an event, we would both be feeling the same way, walking around the room alone. But I wanted to really share that out to folks who are either introverts or feel like maybe too, you just don't feel like you belong in that space. Sometimes if we're younger, or we feel like everybody else has better credentials, or we're the only, LGBTQ person in the room, that we don't have a place there. And really, it's okay to put on that I do belong here and use that as part of your lifting yourself up, that power stance that Amanda was talking about before you go in there.
And if it helps you give that care to yourself, remember there's other people in the space that are having the same experience as you. Absolutely. And when you are saying to yourself, I belong here, I can be here, I deserve to be here, I have something to contribute, you're like telepathically, maybe in a woo-woo way, I don't know, magically sending that out to the other folks that are there. It's absolutely okay also to step out of the fray. Just say hi to people as they walk by, right? Have compliments, genuine compliments. Like again, I carry that bag around because it gets people to ask me about it or say that they like it. And I said, I know, right? What's your favorite bag, right? I might ask a question back or give them a compliment. Also, for me, sometimes I love networking. I love being in it, and then I can get seriously overwhelmed, almost like to a physical place where I can't like handle the energy. I have to remind myself, let's go get a drink of water. I'm going to go reset in the bathroom, and I'm going to go stand over here in this quieter space. Absolutely 100% fine to do. I keep on losing my mouse.
While Amanda's sharing that, I just had another thought about networking. I think another part of networking is introduction. And sometimes we're going at this alone, but we're meeting people there too. And it's okay to kind of, you've just met two strangers, introduce them and become sort of also that connect for other folks that reiterates in your mind who they are. It also does very well because they will remember you. And so that's another great tidbit I would add to working the room and zigzagging, is also kind of try to bring that together in full circle if you can during the event.
All right, thanks for hanging in there with us as we figure out mutes and movements and all the things. That's a really great place. Like, be the social lubricant, be the in-between, be the interviewing, be Phil Donahue, Sally Jessy Raphael, be Oprah, right? We remember her because she asks great questions, she laughs, she introduces people, right? So reducing the anxiety. So there's a couple things that we can say to ourselves, and we'll include these in the notes, but you can also see that I got this from this Introvert's Guide to Small Talk and 8 Painless Tips. So there's things to say to yourself, like the anxiety is coming from me and my beliefs, not the situation. I can do this. What's the worst that can happen? If they don't like me, so what, right? I'm an interesting and worthy person with a lot to contribute, right? And if it's about you, or if it's about your business, your new venture, maybe a project that you're working on, a survey that you want people to fill out, right? This is a worthy venture, and I have a lot to contribute, and people will benefit from knowing about it. So don't hesitate to talk about the things that you need to make sure people know about. Be purposeful. So thoughts are self-fulfilling. Stop ruminating. This is good advice all the time. Anytime we're ruminating over and over, I don't want to go, this is going to be terrible, I hate this, I'm so bad at it. That self-talk, that negative self-talk absolutely vibrates within you, and it has impact outside of that. So, just really get out of those negative self-fulfilling attributes. You can take a little bit of mindfulness here. Whenever you hear yourself ruminating, you can say, oh, that's thinking. I don't need that thought right now. I'm going to go into this event. I'm not going to overthink it. This happens to me every time I leave an event. I'm always like, I turn over. Oh, did I say the wrong thing? Oh, that was so embarrassing. Oh, I should have said. It doesn't help me get a redo. It totally takes me out of the present moment. So just be mindful of that. And also, sometimes we can feel like small talk is a waste of time. It's not. It's a really beautiful way to meet a stranger. Maybe you get to hear a great story. It's an important way that we get to have connections, even if sometimes it can feel like a little bit draining when it puts us outside of our comfort zones. Channel your curiosity, approach the conversations and people with genuine interest. Ask open-ended questions and follow-ups. If a lot of you have been in space with me, I often ask people, what was the best part of your day today, right? Do you have any do-overs? Is there anything that you'd like to do different? But usually I say, what's been the best part of your week so far? What's the thing that is making you the most inspired right now? Also, knowing a lot of people, and myself for a little bit of time, who are in job transitions, whether we're staying home and caring for family members or loved ones, or we're making a pivot and we're in an in-between place. I like to avoid asking people, oh, what's your job? Where do you work? Instead, I like to ask people, tell me about what a typical day looks like for you. Because then I'm also opening it up for that person that maybe is side hustling and gigging and is in college and they're not sure what they want to do yet, to be able to tell me about their day. And then it opens it up so they don't feel like they have to say, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, as if that's something that's not good, because that wasn't the intent when we ask it. So we can ask in that more open-ended way. Also, what Jenny said, you can ask questions, right? So when someone comes into the group, you can say, oh, well, we were just talking about what the best part of our day was. What is your best part, Steve? You know, and you're bringing them in, and then it also just lets you kind of ask those questions and those follow-ups. If you ask somebody, you know, like, oh, where do you live? They're going to say Tremont. Oh, what do you love the most about Tremont? You know, so you want to ask these open-ended questions rather than just Tremont, lived there 12 years, right? You want to make it easy for someone to share with you. And then of course, as you're asking that, you can also get people to fill in for you, or you can say, oh, I really love that restaurant that's there. What's the name of it? Or do you have a favorite place that you think I should totally check out, right? So that also gets into adding those juicy tidbits. When somebody asks you, how are you? Don't say, oh, I'm good. Give them something to work with. I mean, just give them, you know, I'm good, thanks. I'm getting ready for vacation and I'm really excited about this, you know. If somebody asks you where you grew up and you just say Cleveland, give them something more to work with. Cleveland, and I really love living in Cleveland. Or, yeah, I grew up in Cleveland and I still live here. You know where I wish I had lived, or maybe I'll live someday, is back in the Pacific Northwest. Give people something to work with. And you can also practice this ahead of time so that you stay within your comfort zone, right? Okay. Also, sometimes it's awkward. I remember our first event that we did after the pandemic, and I felt like I didn't know how to talk to people anymore. Like the introverted social anxiety part of myself had taken over every part of my brain. And I was there at this event and I was talking to somebody I didn't know very well. And I was having a hard time kind of staying in the small talk. I was having a hard time being curious and genuinely interested. And then somebody else showed up that I hadn't seen in years. And I was so excited and I got super, super excited. And then I didn't know how to like combine the two conversations. And so I just literally turned and left. I just left the conversation. So that can happen to us. Awkward moments are going to happen. So don't ruminate on it. That's what I'm going to tell my past self. All right. But you can't remember somebody's name. That often happens, right? I'll introduce myself and say, hey, we've met before. I'm Amanda Cole, right? Can you remind me who you are? I often will say, can we meet again? Also, if I want somebody to think that they've known me before, that's just fine. What are they going to say? No, I don't know you. I've never met you before. No, right? They're not going to say that. So if I can't remember your name, I'm often going to say, hey, I think we've met before. I'm not going to try to put a place or person with it because I don't want to fumble that ball and mix them up for somebody else. But maybe you did confuse them for somebody else, right? You can just let it roll off of you and say, well, can we get reacquainted? Can we reintroduce ourselves? I'm Amanda. What's your name? Also, this is helpful when you're networking with other people. If you introduce yourself, it makes sure that that other person introduces, especially if that will help another person you're with who knows them. Being in fundraising and development, both my wife are, there was a lot of times where we did not know who the other person was, but they knew who I was. So Erin would come in and be like, hey, I'm not sure if we've met. I'm Amanda's wife, Erin. And then every now and then that person just wouldn't say their name. And then we were just stuck in this awkward boat, right? Again, like back to pronouns, we want to stay neutral. If you want to meet somebody and they're across the room, don't assume their gender or their pronouns. Hey, do you know that person that's over there with the blazer on? Can you introduce me to them? Try to be really neutral when we're introducing people to one another or when we're asking people to be introduced. Hey, this is Brian. I just met them. Brian, this is Susan. And then you can use that person's pronouns if you know them. This is just being really mindful, right? Dress codes, especially for us in the queer community, sometimes this can bring up a lot of stress. Like, is it okay for me to dress this androgynous, this femme, this masculine in this space if it's not a queer space? So sometimes we might feel like we're compromising on ourselves. Have your go-to dress that makes you feel whole in your sense of self and in your gender identity, but that is going to be familiar and comfortable enough. Get that uniform going. I often tell folks that maybe are wearing feminine clothes for the first time, practice in those heels. Never wear heels or any pair of shoes for the first time. If it's your first time wearing a suit or maybe binding your chest, practice it before, right? And then also don't get in your head. Nobody's looking at you or judging you in any way that you probably think they are. And if they are, who cares, right? Let it go. Also, power pose, and also move around in that outfit, sit down, stand up, and this is good for interviewing as well. Sometimes for us in our spaces, we can be misgendered. So if you're going into a non-queer dominant space and you have, you're often misgendered, prepare yourself for that, right? Kind of get yourself psychologically and emotionally ready for it. Think ahead of time and visualize the way in which you're going to correct people, the way in which you're going to let them know what your pronouns are. And give yourself grace if you're not able to, right? If you're not able to and you feel like you failed on yourself and you didn't stand up for yourself, you didn't. You're just navigating space. You're doing the best that you can, right? Of course, as calmly as you can correct is wonderful. And also you can leave a conversation. You can just choose to leave. We don't always have to tell people where we're going. Great, it was nice to meet you, and peace out, right? Of course, we know the way that we want to show up in allyship is when we notice people are being misgendered or their wrong name is using, we can stand up and do that correction for them, right? We can stand up and say, well, actually, Erin, she works here. I'm using my wife as an example a lot. Or like Jenny, they, if Jenny was to use they, them pronouns in that way. If it's about coming out, right? So we're in small talk. One of the things that really stresses us out is how am I going to talk about my life that doesn't out me? So figure out ahead of time if you're going to, in your small talk way, talk about your partner in a gendered way. And if not, you can get comfortable using gender neutral language. Now, I'm not asking any of us to go into the closet or compromise on ourselves, but it's a reality that we might need to figure out how in these kind of stranger land places, we might use different strategies than we do socially. So think about that ahead of time, kind of plan for it as you can ahead of time, and then also give yourself grace. And remember, you don't owe anybody an explanation. You literally don't. So say I'm using really gender neutral language and I'm saying my partner, and then later in the conversation, I say wife. And maybe I'm not sure how people are reading that now that they know that I'm a lesbian. Gasp. I don't owe anybody an explanation. I don't need to make a joke. I don't need to over explain. I can just move forward with my conversation, right? Sometimes in these spaces, it gets too personal or political, and this is especially true for us as queer folks or anybody that's on the margins. People say really problematic stuff, ask us where we're really from, ask us how we knew. Maybe sometimes people genuinely want to talk to us about their trans or non-binary or queer child, right? And now is maybe not the time to answer that question. I was at an event recently where somebody said to me after I told them I ran the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and she said, why do you people have to segregate yourselves? And I was like, whoa. So I really tried to step in and make that a learning moment, right? Because we do that all the time. But then it got to a point where it was ruining my joy. It made me feel vulnerable. I didn't want to give this person that time. And so what I said is, can you give me your card? I'm going to email you some resources. Right? Or if you want to lean in and have more of a conversation, you can say we can have coffee. And again, you can just say, it was really great to meet you. I'm going to go now, right? You don't owe anybody any of that. And then also, like I had said already, where do you work? If you're in that in between and you really know you need to be in these networking spaces, you need to build your contact list. You need to be putting yourself out there, but you're not sure about it. You can have some different ways, and again, practice them. I'm exploring my options right now. Actually, I'm really excited about being in this in-between place where I'm looking for my next career move that's really going to matter to me. I'm making a career pivot. If you're home caring for family or loved ones, my family is my focus right now, but what I'm interested in is learning more about this sector, or what I'm paying attention to are future opportunities in this kind of job, or I'd really like to get involved with this board. So even when our primary focuses are our families or our loved ones, we still have other future opportunities that we're looking for, and we can talk about that. Okay. Is there anything in the chat that I need to pause for or bring on in here, Jenny, for me?
Yeah, Lo just came up with a great comment in the chat, and I'm just going to read it for you, Amanda. I keep thinking about the messiness of navigating the line between a professional connection and a personal connection. I love to be authentic with folks, and that seems to make them more comfortable with me. That inevitably leads to me thinking our connection is a lot more casual than they think. Any tips for this?
Was I muted that whole time?
Yes, you were.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't say it again. You'll never know my secrets here. I was saying that I jive with that. I have definitely been in the place where it can be casual and I want to make a meaningful connection. It leads me to you thinking that your connection is a lot more casual than they think. Is that right? Yeah. Well, one, I would say you can look at some different situations and try and think about how you might want to approach them differently, right? I also think that when we reach out and meeting new people, we can often be surprised at like how close is that connection that we had. And the fact is, if we get surprised and we feel like we don't have that same level of rapport that we thought with them, or if we get surprised and people think they know us a lot more or we're closer than we are, you can just like let it go with some grace and again, not ruminate or overthink it. And then also you can just reestablish, yes, it was great to meet you at that networking event. I look forward to connecting with you and at future events. You can set kind of a boundary there. Jenny, what other thoughts do you have any around this too? It's hard for me to kind of totally formulate, but I really appreciate this. And I know other people are really vibing with it because I do.
Yeah, I do this all the time, especially when you make such great connections and you're like, oh my goodness, and we really jazzed on this topic. And like, now we want, we talked about coffee, and then I do my reach out, like I do and then there's crickets or, no information. And I was like, what? And I think a lot of it for me has been learning that it's not personal. And as Amanda said, like being okay with letting that go and make a note for yourself to follow up in a couple more weeks. And I think it's great when you do think about folks as a little bit more close, even if they don't, because that really means that you were very genuine in that situation. And sometimes we're very present in networking events, and everybody has those intentions to do these follow-ups, do these projects. Isn't that great? I want you to meet. Let's have coffee. And then they go back to their everyday work and it gets overwhelmed. And that meeting that you had might just have fallen under. And so it might not be that they didn't have that same connection, but it is also a lot of other things pop up. And so I use those moments to say, okay, let me make a note, follow up with them later and see if we can rekindle some of that magic that we had when we can be back together in a more intimate place. And then keep trying. I always say any network I've made, they'll be my networks forever. And I will always have coffee with people, even if I haven't seen them for 10 years. But I think that's a way that I have handled it for myself.
Yeah, I think that's totally spot on. Absolutely 100% spot on. And then also like you can continue to invite them to things. If you guys do connect on social, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I thought you might want to know about this event. But it sucks. And it's hard to be out here as a grown-up trying to make friends, right? It is super tough. But I think, Jenny, your advice there was absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And like, Lo, I've met you through professional spaces and through networking. And I love the connection giving that you have. And I owe you a coffee. So like, let's go, right? So I would say don't overthink it. I also like to tell people, often you'll hear me say, be a flamingo, right? So flamingos, all the water rolls right off their feathers. They look fabulous. They can stand on one foot, totally balanced, and they can stand in boiling water. So whenever you're sucking, whenever we're overthinking things, whenever we're over like bringing things in, we're being a sponge and we're soaking it all up. We need to remember to be a flamingo, right? Just like totally let it roll right on off of you. Okay. So tactful goodbyes, right? So like that one situation where I was like, I don't know what to do, and I just like turned about face. It was like really hard. Yes. Okay. I love how this webinar has turned into an Amanda accountability webinar. Like, I am really here for this. I am going to lean into that vulnerability. So, be gracious. So even in those ways where you're like, I'm absolutely ending this conversation, it's always easy to say, it was great to meet you, right? It's great to meet you. I'm going to go. You can find an opening, right? Find an opening that the conversation, maybe the island started to shift and you can just back out of it, right? Or you can bring in this other person. Now you have this island of two. Bringing in other people into the conversation. When you see someone kind of lingering around, do them the solid of bringing them in. And if that gives you a doorway out, take it, no problem, right? Find someone across the room. I fake find people all the time. Oh, hey, I have to go over there. Like I literally fake find people all the time. And then sometimes what happens is that person makes eye contact. So I'm like, well, I guess we're talking, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't tell them that that's why I did it. I thought, I go on up and I say something. You need to take a call or answer a text, looking at your phone and saying, oh, sorry, I had to take this text real quick and walk away, right? It's okay to be able to do that. And then also sometimes when you can feel the kind of the conversation rolling down, I can say, you seem to know a lot of people here, or if I know that they've been at this kind of event before, is there anyone else I should meet or anything else that I should do? And I can use that as maybe a way that it gives them an out and we go over and we meet a new person, right? Just thinking about those kind of pack animal ways. And, something I didn't mention on here, but Jenny, you really talked about it, is dormant relationships. When I was preparing for this, it talked about look through your contacts and who are people that you haven't been in contact with 2 or 3 years. Send them a message. This one writer, it's in one of the articles here, says that every Friday they find 3 people that they've been out of contact with and they send them a message. Hey, I was thinking about you. Read this article, just wondering how you're doing. You crossed my mind. And we get nervous. We think, oh, well, I never followed up on that lunch, or we've been out of contact. They might not even remember me. But what people find is, one, it's way easier than we think. It replenishes us emotionally and in our networks. And often it's a warmer connection, and almost always the researchers, they put something in there. The majority of the time, people really love to be thought about. They like to get that reminder email. And then it also takes the pressure of us always having to create new contacts for the project that we're working on, to stay relevant, to have people to brainstorm with or edit a paper. We're constantly looking for those new contacts when really we have some dormant relationships that we could rekindle. And we're going to be bringing this in for our landing. We're running it on time, which is awesome. So just thinking forward to the ways that we would really love to have Plexus be a part of your network, your community, and your connection making. Here are some events that we have upcoming. On Thursday, we're going to be here at the LGBT Center where our offices are from 4 to 6. We're going to have some beverages. We're going to have some snacks. And it's just a way for you to come in and meet us in person and check out our space. Of course, if you haven't been to the LGBT Center, it will be open, and we really encourage you to be familiar with the kind of living room that the LGBT Center is for our queer and allied community. We have a really active young professionals group, and on that same day, on March 2nd, from 7 to 9, they're going to be over in Old Brooklyn at Shade. It's an LGBTQ club. It's a nightclub. We're going to have pizza, and your first drink is on us, whatever that might be, alcohol or otherwise. It's just a social meetup we'd love to have. It's usually about 20 people, just a nice little way on that Thursday to kind of wind down and connect with other young professionals. Also, another event that our young professionals groups puts on are called QEO dinners. This one is on April 12th. These are hosted with an out LGBT senior executive. Our guest and our host in April is Steve Corrington. He has worked at a number of Fortune 500 companies in talent acquisition and HR, and he just launched his own company. So he's going to talk to us of how he navigated being a queer person, moving up in senior executive Fortune 500 companies, and his decision to leave that and start his own company. It's a limited to 20 people, sit down formal dinner, and it's just a really beautifully moderated conversation and just question asking. And then next Thursday, we are back with our network nights, full on every other month, just about. We're going to have an art hop. So the Edge Artisan Fair is an LGBT-owned business. They have different queer and allied vendors there. So jewelry to soap to fine art. They're having a gallery opening. So the artists will be there to chat with you. You can get some complimentary wine and cheese if you'd like. And then walk across the street over to Brothers Lounge. It's an iconic Cleveland music hall. And we'll have a good old networking event there. And you can test out all this stuff. You can power pose in the bathroom. You can put down your rumination and come on in to a Plexus event. A reminder that it's always a good mix of social and networking. And then with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Jenny to talk about the amazing Plexus Connects webinar series she has lined up.
Thank you, Amanda. It's been fun to start putting this together, and I'm working with so many members to bring you a speaker series this year. Plexus Connects is an opportunity for members to share things that they're passionate about to our members. And so I encourage and invite and any of you who are Plexus members, you have a presentation idea, maybe it's not totally formulated, you and I can sit down and hash something out. We'd love to have you present, but we also have some really exciting topics coming up. So definitely keep up on the newsletter and things. We've got things like mentoring, engaging with our youth, our future employees, moving from checklist diversity to sustained inclusion. This is a hot topic in D&I right now as we test our theories and our strategic plans that we all put into action a few years ago, supporting employees through cancer and other really serious issues that may be offsetting their attention and time, and how to work with them, and preparing for retirement, which is something that all of us can be dealing with, even if we feel like retirement seems very far away. Our webinars are always on the fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. We'll also be hosting some virtual open houses for Plexus during that time, and we'll be doing that in June and October. And I highlight that only because it's a great opportunity for you to refer your friends, family, businesses that you enjoy to come learn about Plexus and join us. So those are some of the things upcoming. So to end, I first want to thank everyone who joined us today. Really excited to have a full house at our event and see you here to engage. We really appreciate Amanda's knowledge and the time she spent to bring us this great presentation with some very helpful tips, and also sharing with us those events that are coming up where you can put these in practice. And I'll also say that if you come to a Plexus event and you're kind of feeling like a wallflower, feel free to seek us out here and we can help get you started and introduce you to some folks as well. And I just want to say networking is a skill. It takes practice. Take every event that you can. And so even if you go to an event and you feel like I really botched that or I didn't meet anyone, that gives you an opportunity to just try again and try new things. And so with that, I do hope you join us this week or next at our open house or our art hop next week. And with that, I just want to thank you and wish you all a wonderful week.